These bomb shelters are designed to protect against radiation and natural disasters, and they're now being mass-produced in Russia, the country's Emergency Ministry Research Institute has said. The announcement, coming as US President Joe Biden's administration agreed to allow Ukraine to fire American long-range missiles deep into Russia, though the Research Institute did not link the production increase to any current crisis. The Cub-M shelter is said to defend against a variety of threats, including shrapnel, debris and fires. It can even be deployed in Russia's vast northern permafrost, according to the State Institute. A standard unit can hold 54 people, but additional modules can be added. The war in Ukraine is entering what some officials say could be its final, most dangerous phase. Moscow's forces are advancing at their fastest pace since the early weeks of the conflict in 2022, while the West is seeking to shore up Ukraine. On Tuesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin issued a warning to the US, lowering the threshold for a nuclear strike. On Monday, the Kremlin called Washington's long-range missile decision reckless and said it would respond.
President Joe Biden has lifted some restrictions blocking Ukraine from using U.S.-supplied weapons for striking deeper into Russian territory. The decision is a major change in U.S. policy and could help Ukraine better defend itself. But it could also escalate the conflict. Biden's decision to authorize long-range strikes could help defend Ukraine's foothold in Russia's Kursk region, which it seized as potential leverage in future war talks. Long-range strikes would also allow Ukraine to target Russian military air bases. James Nixie is the director of Russia, Eurasia, and Europe programs at Chatham House.
This is a dramatic step because it does give the Ukrainians the ability to hit really important military points and infrastructural points inside Russia, and that will absolutely have an effect on Russia's ability to wage war. But it won't win Ukraine the war outright, and certainly not in the immediate future, and not at all, to be perfectly honest with you. The truth is that for Ukraine to win the war, we have to do an awful lot more to squeeze Russia than we are now. So it's an enormous step. The Ukrainians are hugely relieved, but it's not a game changer as far as the war is concerned.
Russia has strongly opposed the decision, insisting that Ukraine cannot carry out such strikes without NATO's direct help, and calling it a major escalation. On Monday, the Kremlin said that any such decision would signal direct U.S. involvement in the conflict. Here's Russian President Vladimir Putin himself in September, warning against such a decision.
If this decision is made, it will mean nothing less than the direct participation of NATO countries, the United States, and European countries in the war in Ukraine.
The first Ukrainian long-range strikes could happen in the coming days. But with 2 months left in Biden's term, there's no way to know how long the new policy will last, as a new U.S. administration comes to power in January.
Obviously, this can be reversed by Donald Trump when he comes into power in February, and it looks likely to be, judging from the tweets and judging by his appointments. So there is the understanding that Ukraine needs to do all that it can between now and January, mid-January, in order to get itself into that best possible position, because it might well be more handicapped than it ever has been before come 20th January.
Trump has repeatedly criticized the scale of U.S. aid to Ukraine and has vowed to end the war quickly, without saying how. A Trump spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment.